Our first speaker today is Michelle Hall. Born in Germany to parents serving in the military, she then moved to Illinois where she grew up on a farm and a ranch. She lives in Carrollton where she moved in 2020 right before the world was put into lockdown. She's a single mom of an almost 15-year-old son. She's a coach in technology as well as a certified John Maxwell coach, speaker, and trainer, helping women become all they've been created to be. So help me welcome Michelle Hall.
Thank you. So I would like to ask you all a question. First, let me set the scene. So please, if you would, close your eyes for just a moment, and I'd like you to picture this. It is 11 o'clock at night. You've just gotten your pajamas on, brushed your teeth, gone around the house and turned off all the lights and locked the doors. You've gotten everything shut down, everyone tucked away, your child, your pets, and you're ready to do the same for yourself. Just as you're about to settle into your nice, comfortable bed and begin to relax and close your eyes, someone you know messages you. Their wife has gone into labor with their second child. Their first child, a daughter, is about 8 years old, and unfortunately, the hospital says they don't have anywhere for her to go during the baby's delivery, so they're asking if you can watch her overnight. Would you do that? What if I told you that the daughter was conceived in infidelity, in marital unfaithfulness? Would you still take her in? What if I said that every time you see her, you see both an innocent child and the sin of her parents, especially her father, and all the damage he did to his first wife and his firstborn son? How would you respond then? And what if I told you that the man who was asking you to watch his daughter while his wife was in the hospital delivering their second child had been your husband? That this 8-year-old daughter was the same age as the time of your divorce, because he filed for divorce only after getting the child's mother pregnant after multiple affairs. Now, how would you respond? You can open your eyes. In 2002, I was a thriving single professional woman in technology. I was enjoying a really fun group of friends that walked through life together. We played on volleyball leagues together, celebrated together, even took day trips together. I was doing really well professionally as a project manager for Dell Computers. Just a couple of years prior, I had the amazing experience of camping and hiking in the Grand Canyon with a group of Christian singles. I was active in my church and met a man with dark hair and blue eyes, a man defending his country in the military, and was swept away. We shared our innermost thoughts, dreams, and desires. You know how new love is, right? The excitement, the anticipation. You dream about the future. As little girls, we play with Barbies. We have the big dream house filled with furniture, the convertible car parked outside. Ken comes along and sweeps Barbie off her feet. They kiss and live happily ever after. As a farm and ranch girl growing up in the middle of nowhere in Illinois, Barbie's world was one of my favorite dream escapes. Another favorite was to lay outside on a beautiful night and look up at the stars. Out there, we were hundreds of miles away from any big cities, so it would be pitch black and at night, and you could see literally millions of stars. It was magical. Laying there in the dark, my dreams swirling in my head, I knew there was more out there for me. Unfortunately, growing up in such an isolated, remote glass bubble, I had very limited exposure to people, relationships, careers, opportunities. My primary relationships were my parents, their friends, my dad's family, several of whom lived within half a mile of us, including a cousin who was 3 years older than me, and my brother who was 3 years younger than me. Relationships with my friends outside of school, as well as with healthy and happy family, was very limited. My dad's family did not really connect in healthy ways or on an intimate emotional level, and my parents' relationship was neither happy nor healthy. I remember when I was 8 years old myself, being afraid that my parents would get a divorce. They didn't. They had another son when I was 10 and stayed together for the 3 of us kids, but honestly didn't do us any favors. I rarely saw them spend time together outside of on Sundays when we would go to church as a family and then come home and have a big meal together. I loved these times together. I was starved for them. But my parents rarely showed affection and rarely talked or even got along or were in the same room together for any length of time. My mom was always very dependent on my dad and other people for help, yet always frustrated that she wasn't getting the help she needed, such as fixing things around the house. Dad's time and energy was dedicated primarily to the farm and animals, and then to helping other people fix their homes. My mom's family all lived in Ohio. The highlight of my years was getting to see my grandparents and a favorite, very fun male cousin, a year younger than me, once a year at Christmas time. My grandparents were my one true example of what a happy, loving, healthy marriage should be, and I soaked it up every time I was in their presence. Now, you don't know me very well, so let me tell you that I am a connector. I'm someone for whom deep, meaningful relationships are essential, and I love connecting people with others, especially when I find out someone has a need and I know someone else who can help them. I am also deeply spiritual and intuitive, conscientious, and caring of others and their emotional needs. As you can imagine, all of what I've shared with you about my growing up out in the country, the lack of deep, frequent, meaningful connections with friends, and healthy, happy family left me feeling very empty and alone. As a matter of fact, I don't even remember much of anything before the age of 8. There's trauma there that I've only begun to tap into and learn about. My identity, my concepts of who I am to others and they are to me, and what I am capable of doing and having in my life were all formed out of this emptiness and brokenness. Laying on my back, looking up at the millions of the stars on beautiful, clear nights, I knew there was more out there for me. I knew that I was made for more, but I had no idea what it was or what was even possible. I was raised to believe that I always had to be concerned with what everyone else thought of me, how I looked, how I dressed, how I behaved, what I thought. I believed that women needed a husband in order to have a successful life with a good home, nice car, and happy children. You know, the Barbie dream house? Mm-hmm. That the man was to take care of everything with the house and cars. All of the maintenance, and even helping to make the house look nice with changing light fixtures, hanging curtain rods, and even hanging pictures on the wall. I believed that my place was in the home, making meals, taking care of the kids, having dinner on the table, and making things look nice for when the man comes home, and making sure that he is happy and fulfilled. Now, there is nothing inherently wrong with any of this. Some of this reflects traditional values. However, as you know from when I began speaking to you, you know that I ended up with a broken marriage. Not just one, but actually 2 divorces. Prior to that, I spent my young adult years trying to fill my deep, desperate emptiness by doing everything possible to make other people like and love me. In order to fit in and be accepted, I did the things they did. I used vulgar language, I drank a lot and often got drunk. I dressed in inappropriate ways, which drew all the wrong attention to me, and I desperately looked for love in all the wrong places and gave myself to all the wrong men. As I'm sure you know or can at least guess, those men were more than happy to take what I was giving, and then they would leave me. I felt so used, broken, rejected, and even emptier than before. I had no idea who I was or where I was going. With my second marriage in 2003 to the dark-haired, blue-eyed soldier I was telling you about, I thought I had done things right. When I hiked in the Grand Canyon in the year 2000, after all those years of brokenness, emptiness, and feeling so lost and alone, I had an experience where I literally thought I was going to die. The first night in the canyon was spent only about 1,000 feet below the rim, where it was winter and snowing. In my tent that night, I was so scared because I could not stop shivering. I could not get warm. I could barely move, so I couldn't sit by the fire with the other campers. And the hot chocolate they gave me did little to warm me. I finally fell asleep, and when I woke in the morning, I had frost covering me inside my tent. But I was awake. I was alive. I had made it through that experience. As we hiked deeper into the canyon over the next few days, the weather was in the mid-70s and absolutely beautiful and perfect. I treasured this time of just hiking, following the feet in front of me, contemplating all that had happened in my life, and realizing that God had protected me from so much worse. I realized that I belonged to God and nothing I did was going to distance me from Him. I was His, He deeply loved me, and I was a treasure to Him. These were the first critical pieces to beginning to repair my identity. If you are looking for your identity, trying to understand who you are outside of Christ and a relationship with Him, this world will always leave you broken and feeling lost. And I'm going to stop there because that's all I have.
Okay, wing it from here.
I was trying to, but I'm having trouble tapping in.
Well, you just mentioned about knowing Christ is the most important thing that you can happen. Tell us how to find Christ, what He did for us. I mean, just the stuff you know that you don't even have to think about God.
Yeah. So for me on my journey, in searching for my identity, as I've told you in my story, I looked for that in all of the wrong places, and it always left me feeling empty and even more isolated. And I hate that place. And so over the years, let me say this, also growing up, I only learned about Bible stories. I knew who Jesus was. I knew who God was according to the Bible stories. But I never knew Holy Spirit, and I never knew what a relationship with God meant. So as I was going through my journey of wrestling with my broken marriage, as I said, I felt that I had done that one right. I met him in church. We did not have intercourse before we got married. We were trying to have a right relationship. And when I entered that marriage, I entered into a true Christian covenant, I believed. And so when my husband was having multiple affairs after I had become pregnant with our son, and we were on a deployment in Germany, I was looking for help and never found it. I could not find Christian counselors and could not find the help that I needed, but I was in covenant. And so I did everything that I could within my power. I was reading books. I was talking to people that I saw that had healthy marriages, and just desperately searching for help. And God spoke to me and said that you're reading about me, but you're not connecting with me. So at that point, I got into the Word and I started developing a relationship with Jesus directly. My prayers were different. I learned the difference between praying about my husband and praying for him. My prayers had been, God fix him, God take him or take me because this isn't working. It was the worst kind of prison. And I didn't feel like I had good answers. But as I continued to press in and give God my brokenness, give him all of my honest feelings, he can handle our anger. He can handle our deepest, darkest pain. And he's probably the only one who can. You know, even friends and people that love you can only handle so much of your brokenness before it starts to wear them down. Only God can handle all of that. And even when you're angry with him, even when you don't understand, even when you feel like it was his plan for you, that you obeyed, you did it right, and it still went wrong, even then, he meets you where you are. He still loves you. He still accepts you, even when you give him all of that junk. And so I have learned how to have a relationship with God. I have learned that he is real. He's not just this thing that's floating in the air somewhere, untouchable, unexperienceable. And he He has become the one in my life that has been consistent, who has been my provider. He has taken the place of the husband that I should have had after all of the broken dreams. He walks with me. He brings people into my life to love me. And without him, I would still be in brokenness. I would still be struggling. I would still feel empty and lost. So if you don't know him today, I would love to introduce you and help you get to know my Jesus.
The end?
The end.
Super.
Again.
Super.
Okay. Good. Let me just stop this.